Brad mentioned, well, I did this quickly, the map of North America. So my star is the lower star. It should be quite a bit down from there, near the American border, and that's where we're from, Winnipeg. And 3 days ago, that was the weather in Winnipeg. And the other star there is kind of, again, it's shifted somehow. That's where Brad comes from. Now that's about 500 miles away, 800 kilometers away from Winnipeg, but that's one of the next closest cities to Winnipeg. It's not a very populated country way out west where we are. And so this also explains why we're in Europe in the wintertime. My wife and I. Hopefully there's one or two better motives than that, but that's not a bad one. As Brad mentioned, my wife and I have been involved with MSC Canada, mission organization. I won't say very much about that. You can ask Brad. He knows everything about MSC Canada. Something. Yeah. And we've been with MSC Canada since 1984. For the first 20 years or so, they provided their services, which are extensive, to help us as mission workers. For a number of years, we were mission workers in the Republic of Ireland. And the capital city there is Dublin. Did you know that Dublin is the fastest growing city in the world? Some of you Asian folks might not think that could be so. But did you know Dublin is the fastest growing city? Yeah?
It's Dublin every year.
Yeah, it's Dublin. It's always Dublin. Dublin, Dublin, Dublin. Very good. Well, we got a keener. So I got preaching by learning to do street preaching, and we love the hecklers. Because the hecklers created interest on the part of everybody else. Anyways, So, big picture, the heart of the gospel is the Lord Jesus Christ. Very quickly, almost a year ago, it was war in Ukraine, and the mission organization that we're connected with set up a Ukraine relief fund in March. The following month, I was sent by that organization to go and check on workers who are living in countries surrounding Ukraine who are being inundated with refugees. And while we could supply money, most of these people, what was being spent was not the cash, the money. That was being spent. But what was really being spent, what they were running out of, was just the wherewithal to keep going. Workers in Poland went from in a population of 37 million, 3 million Ukrainians came into Poland within 6 weeks. And workers and Christians are just the kind of people who want to help. They're also the kind of people that have a hard time saying no. And so I met 38 different workers in about 6 weeks. And working like Brad and Catherine, or working with organizations, and they were really at the end of themselves. That was the trip that I took. Again, drove about 7,000 kilometers, and got to visit a lot of people in a lot of places. We're done. These workers are in southeastern Romania. I phoned them up. I said, I'm going to be in Calarush around noon hour. I want to take you and your wife, that's George Murray, I want to take you and your wife for lunch, just to get a break, because we knew that they were looking after a lot of people. They have a Bible camp 2 hours south of them, and they were filling that up with Ukrainian refugees. I phoned them and said, I want to take you guys out for lunch and just find out how you're doing. And he thought that would be great. He got back to me 5-10 minutes later and said, we have 13 Ukrainian women living with us. they want to make you lunch. So you come here, and so they made me borscht with sour cream and halapshis and pierogies and all that kind of stuff. It was tremendous. After we finished eating, George, who had just got in at 3 in the morning, having driven again to the border of Ukraine to bring people to where they are, to care for them, we met these women, and they were so glad to look after us. The one in the middle, all their husbands were not there. Their sons and their husbands. They were still in Mykolaiv, which is just northeast of Odessa, fighting. The girl in the white, George said to tell me what had happened the day before. And she said maybe 2 words, and then she just broke down. And then all the other women completely broke down. Everybody's traumatized, even the workers. And so they told George to tell me the story. George said the morning before, she had got a phone call from her husband, and he and some other Ukrainian, I don't think they were actual soldiers, but they were fighting, and the Russian army had chased them into the basement of a building. And as she put it on the speakerphone, everyone could hear in the room, everybody could hear the helicopters flying back and forth. He was phoning to say goodbye to his wife and his daughter. He was going to be killed. They were going to find him. And so you can imagine the scene. And this is the next day, so maybe it looks not too bad. What happened is George got these Eastern Orthodox women together, and he prayed for them. Prayed. That's all he could think of doing. Turn to God. 15, 20 minutes later, they got another phone call. And it's this woman's husband. He said the helicopters went away. He said just 5 or 7 minutes ago, we decided to stick our heads up above ground, and the Russian soldiers had gone. And he said, I don't know what happened. Well, we know what happened. God happened. But when war breaks out, we think about man's inhumanity to man. We hear that, and it's true. But I got to be blessed by coming up against all kinds of stories of man's humanity to man. Men and women created in the image and likeness of God. There's the reality of that truth. People want to respond. People want to help. And so lots of stories like that. This is in Bratislava. This is a couple from Vancouver. And in Canada, they've been in Eastern Europe since 1975. They went there to start up Navigator Ministries in Eastern Europe when it was still under the Soviets. In any case, they run a Integra, big humanitarian aid agency that was set up to help people in Eastern Europe when the Soviet Union lost its power. They have now turned their attention to Eastern Africa, but when the Ukraine crisis hit, they turned all their attention to Ukraine and trying to meet needs. When I was there, that was the 6th lorry full of aid that was going into Ukraine. They could only take it across the border. The insurance companies wouldn't let them drive their trucks into Ukraine. I circled back there 3 weeks later, and they had just got the go-ahead because the Ukrainian army had pushed the Russians out of Kyiv. The insurance companies were letting these drivers, who all were happy to drive, to get humanitarian all the way to the center where Kyiv is. And since that day, they are now, this organization is working about 10 kilometers behind the Ukrainian army. As soon as the Ukrainian army liberates, this Christian organization brings in all kinds of aid. One of those cost 48,000 euro to fill it. I asked Alan, what was his budget through the end of the summer? He said 3.5 million. Do you know by November, this is God. This is God. God has supplied over 6 million euro. Over 100 of these have gone into Ukraine. They're building houses. They're building modular houses, all kinds of things. But again, opportunities to speak of the Lord. This is Moldova. Just CMI aid. There it is. Check that out. I have never seen a more effective ministry. If you want to get some good ideas how you can help people by ministering to them and at the same time making it clear this is because of Christ. Their slogan is, the love of Christ compels us. Goes back to our message. If you want to produce the fruit of the Spirit, it's the love of Christ. It's your love for Christ. It's your living for Him. And what He does, not just in you, but through you, that will make a difference. That will make a huge difference. CMI aid, that is a fact. Probably 75 to 80% of all funds that came in for the crisis in Ukraine came in the first 4 months. Hardly anything ever since that. We're taking a team there at the end of this month. We're going to be working alongside the folks in Moldova, helping them, and then we're taking a team back in June to run English immersion camps. And if you're interested in joining us, you're more than welcome. Let me know. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. And those are some of the places we're visiting this time, not just in Europe, but getting to Georgia as well as back to Moldova in Eastern Europe. So, the fruit of the Spirit is a love for the Lord, is a result of a love for the Lord Jesus Christ, living for Him.